Hey everybody, it's Mike, and you're watching the Reelblack podcast once again. Sorry for the late start, waiting for the room to fill up. But we have once again we are being joined by our friend across the pond, Mr. Jason Clute from the 21 Rules of Blackness. How you doing, Jason? Welcome back.
Thank you. Good to be back. So happy to be here and help out and participate in this conversation.
Yeah, now you may be a little too young and certainly not geographically inclined to know what Freaknik is, so we'll have to talk a little bit about that. But before we get started, can you let people know about the 21 Rules of Blackness?
Yes, the 21 Rules of Blackness is a book which my wife and I wrote during the lockdown period, and it's like a code of conduct for Black people. 21 rules, 21 simple rules for Black people to follow, which will help you get to your higher self, so to speak, and give you an opportunity to navigate your way through this this terrain which we find ourselves in the West. Available on Amazon and all good bookstores. You can find us on Instagram as well.
At 21 Rules, I'm just putting like a little screen thing up. So is it at 21 Rules of Blackness or?
At 20 Rules of Blackness, yeah. Just type in 20 Rules of Blackness and you'll find us. We'll pop up.
Okay. .com?
The .com isn't operational yet.
Okay, gotcha.
You just do a Google search for 20 Rules of Blackness and you'll find the books, you'll find the videos, you'll find whatever it is you need.
You got it. I'm gonna put it right there, and we got our mod crew coming in as well. So this might be a short look. I plead the fifth. I'm of age to Bennett Freaknik. I'll say it'll be a miracle if I show up in the documentary, but if there's anybody that looks like me, hopefully they weren't doing anything too crazy. But
what year did you go then? What year did you go?
No, I never went. You know what we had, and I never went here in Philly. We had what they called the Greek picnic, which was very similar, but it wasn't as renowned. I mean, just to rewind a split second. So for those who don't know, Hulu has announced that they're going to be releasing a documentary, about the 1994 edition of Freaknik. And for those who don't know what Freaknik is, Freaknik was a spring break party that took place in Atlanta from the 80s until the mid 90s, until they shut it down, basically because people were, I guess, getting a little too freaky. But they taking the titles seriously, and it's got a lot of people my age scared. If you can imagine what the behavior of some of these folks might have been in 1994, and now they're respectable adults and they've got kids, and people are a little afraid because people were pulling video cameras were something new, and back then, and now that kind of freaky behavior might be coming back to catch up to you. So that's basically what it's about. I can share like a little clip from a Freaknik documentary that's on YouTube, and then a personal TikTok video that's going viral as well. So you want to take a look at, here's what Freaknik was about.
To the right of us, then they was dancing on top of a car. Now let me see you drop to the ground. Come on, girl. So they was dancing, and guys was grabbing them a little bit, but they couldn't reach them. So then we just was chilling, watching them dancing. So then we turned around, and this other girl was dancing with some other guy, some guy that was in the crowd. One girl, she had an all-white dress on, and they had her on stage. She got up there, she just danced a little bit. By the time we turned around, it just got ugly.
So that's a taste. So respectable adult. And we all respectable adults. I don't know. I mean, this kind of caught me off guard because it brings up or caught my interest, I should say, not off guard. This caught my interest because of the world we're in now, where there's cameras everywhere, where you almost expect, and a lot of people are outing themselves with their behavior. But you know, I guess the first question is to the viewers: did they partake in Freaknik, or have any fears or worries about this documentary, or are they looking forward to seeing the documentary? Now, I mean, and to be fair, Freaknik had its positive aspects as well. It was about Black unity as well. I just had a weird name, so.
Yeah, the name doesn't help, does it?
No. No. I mean, when did you is this your first time hearing about Freaknik, Jason?
I didn't even know what Freaknik was up until like for 3 or 4 days ago. A group chat I was in, someone in there and said, did anyone ever go to this? Here I went across to the US and went to it. Yeah. But it was totally new to me. I know I've never heard of it. But then since then I watched, in fact, that bit that you've shown, I caught a little bit of that. That's pretty much the same part where they're talking about the girl with the white dress. Yeah. And it just seemed to me a bit what we call in England, we call that a cockfest. You know, when there's like the men outnumber the women by about 50-1. That's what that place looked like to me. It looked like there was way more men than women. Was that what it was like normally?
I can't. That's better lighting, actually. For a second, well, let me just do this. Hang on. That's typically what it was about. You know, with I can speak about the Greek picnic and the Greek fraternal organizations and things like that. So yeah, I mean, but yeah, you kind of went there, I guess, to be seen or heard or just to get your freak on, you know.
Was it that outnumbered? Women were that outnumbered to men?
Yeah, I would say so.
So it wasn't a good place for women to go then, really. If you got like men acting wild and they're outnumbering women outnumbering women like 10-1, 50-1, whatever the numbers are.
Yeah. Well, I haven't been to Atlanta in a long time, but Atlanta is also another level to what the fact that Freaknik took place in Atlanta out of all the cities in the United States also is very telling. Now, that's not to say that there weren't Black spring break things happening in other places, but there's just something about the proximity to Magic City, which is a renowned gentleman's club, and Freaknik that brought another level of insanity out, where the mayor and all kinds of people were acting up. Let's see, the divas talking about the Greek picnic. I went to the one in Philly in '95 with my best friend, and we dressed as nerd as possible, and they still tried to. I'm trying to find the rest. You didn't finish your sentence. If this existed now as a female, you wouldn't catch me there. Well, maybe, yeah, I guess we don't have an equivalent at this point. I mean, there's spring break certainly, but not in Atlanta, not traditionally Black. And then also you have to realize in the 90s, the Blackness was a whole nother thing. I mean, I think that, well, let me jump before I jump into what should people be afraid, do you think, Jason, that this video is going to come out next year? This young lady, or auntie, I guess at this point, is like trying to she made a video for TikTok that's gone viral, that's kind of trying to nip things at the bud, so to speak. You want to check this out real quick?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Y'all, I don't know. We might be in trouble. Did y'all see Hulu is about to release a documentary about 94 Freaknik? Yes, 1994 Freaknik. Yes, they are about to release a documentary. So, I'm just now. I've been to several Freakniks. 94 was one that I attended. So I'm just praying that Jesus be a fence. I'm praying that Jesus just be a big, tall privacy fence. That's my prayer. This Easter, this Good Friday. That's my prayer. So, I will say this though. I will say this. Like when they would bring out those video cameras and start recording, I immediately removed myself from the that situation. I never ever was okay with being recorded out there. So hopefully that worked to my benefit, but you never know. You never know. So the only thing I got is if you see your girl in the documentary, hey man, at least I'm fully clothed. At least all my clothes is on. That's all I got. That's the best I got. But yeah, y'all, they about to put our business out in the street. Some of us might be on TV. So get your parental controls together. And I don't know, y'all.
I think it's one of those situations where if you've got children and everything else, it's how you presented yourself to your kids. If you've presented yourself as that you was born the age you are to your children, then yeah, you might have something to worry about. But if you've been relatively honest with your children and explained that you was young once, then maybe so. But either way, it's still going to be embarrassing, even if you said, "Oh yeah, I was a young person once." It's still going to be embarrassing if your kids seeing you acting like a 18-year-old, when you are 18, it's going to be, it might have some difficult conversations when you're trying to explain to them not to do this, not to do that, and you're thinking, well, I'm watching you in Technicolor doing the things that you told me not to do. So yeah, that could be. I can see how it can be problematic for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when I first heard about it, I mean, Freaknik had such a reputation, but at the same time, there was some positivity that came with Black people getting together in a peaceful way. I don't know, honestly, I don't know if you could have a big party like that today because of the amount of gun violence that just typically happens here in the United States.
Didn't people have guns in '94 though?
It wasn't the same. It wasn't the same
Really
kind of thing.
So
I mean, there may, I mean, like somebody in the chat can definitely correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, no, gun violence I think is a lot worse than it was then.
Really?
Because of the amount of like the AR-15s, the assault rifles, and just the amount of weaponry that exists.
I thought they had that in '94 as well, though. In '94, I've seen Boys in the Hood. Didn't they have like Uzis and stuff like that?
We weren't targeted. We weren't shooting up our own stuff that same way. I mean, like, yes, in 91, 92, 93, there was always a threat whenever you had rap music and young people together that there would be some violence. And I guess there's a clip in the documentary. Let me see if I can pull that up where there's some young guys being arrested. Let me see if I can pull that up without a problem.
Craig Neal's agreeing with you. He's saying more young people have guns now.
Okay, so we'll leave it at that because I can't really queue up the video by eye. But
I'm not sure the numbers are then. If the numbers.
What's your perception of us here in the United States? I mean, I know there's hardly any gun violence in the UK.
Well, yeah, there's not. Well, compared to the US, yeah, there's hardly any. Yeah, you still get the odd shooting every now and again, but people aren't like walking around with, with guns like that. Like if someone does shoot someone, it's like, it's not because they got the gun on them. They've probably gone home, got a gun, gone back out, went to find the guy. Whereas here, the guy's probably got the gun in his, in his backpack or in his car or whatever, and
right,
and lets off some shots.
Yeah, well, it's way worse than it was. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, we in '93, I was around in '93. We weren't all walking around doing gang signs and stuff. It was basically a peaceful thing, but I think the hormones, the sexuality, is what Freaknik got known for over
Mm.
all the other stuff, and the Greek organizations, the steppers, the different fraternities definitely kept it in a positive mindset, and I hope that comes across in whatever documentary they end up making.
Mm.
That it was about bringing Black people together in harmony over cultural similarities more so, but it definitely took on that reputation because of the groping and the unwarranted advances. I mean, nowadays, it would just be everybody be in jail for sexual assault based on the behavior that people had during Freaknik. But
Yeah, I think that's just changed in general anyway. I'll answer that question in a second. We just saw some people in there. The people in Europe carry knives on the regular. A lot of young people do carry knives, sadly, in this country rather than guns. And England has some dangerous areas. It sure does. In fact, I'd even go as far to say when I'm in the US, this is the weird thing, right? If I'm in the US on a night out, I feel safer there than I do when I'm in a night out in most cities and towns in England. Because in America, what I find is people only tend to kill people they don't like, usually. Yeah. Whereas in England, people get drunk and then just want to start fighting, and people end up killing each other because they're drunk and they're fighting. Whereas you don't really see that in the US. People go out and don't get drunk and start trying to kill each other. Usually, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but
yeah,
I didn't notice that when I was there. I didn't see people fighting in the street and trying to rip each other's throats out when I was there.
right. I'm opening up the floor. If anybody wants to join us live, there's a StreamYard link. What you have to do is just click that link on your browser, have your camera ready, your microphone open, assign yourself a name, a screen name, and then we'll bring you in to chat. So
and what I'd say as well, Mike, to go back to your question in terms of like people being groped, things like like nowadays especially with camera phones and stuff like that, you wouldn't, you'd be asking for people just getting thrown in jail left, right, and center. Grabbing women and doing things like the stuff I was seeing in that video. Interesting. I'm unsure why you made that reference to Boys in the Hood rather than speaking to statistics on the matter. Because it was an easy visual, wasn't it? I was saying Boys in the Hood was made in like 1991 or something like that. And,
right. Yeah. So there's a perception that I suppose there's a perception that that's how all Black people were behaving at the time, and that's not true, but that's the image that pervades what was happening in the music and what was happening in the culture is based on artifact at this point. So,
and I'll tell you something as well. Perfect for purpose is that coming from the UK, right? I first went to the US in what year did I go? I think 2000 was the first time I went, and I was surprised how like little madness I saw. Didn't really see any because I got my version of the US was based on watching films like Boys in the Hood and Menace to Society. So I thought you'd see a lot more of that, but that's the image they show. They show that a lot, you see. So when you go there, you think that you kind of expect to see it. And I was surprised that I wasn't seeing it. I was like, wow, it's actually a lot safer than I thought it'd be.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Perception. Let me see. I'm just going. Oh, he's back with the. Yes, that the movie Boys in the Hood aired right in the middle of the mass incarceration of Black men here in the U.S. It did not help the perception of Black men during that time.
Oh no, I totally agree. It probably did more. Well, not probably. It definitely did more damage than good. That's for sure.
Yeah, the war on drugs, and then this perception that Black people are animals and can't get together. Oh, and so I mentioned that this won't be the first cable film about Freaknik. I mean, in addition to the documentaries, like the one that we showed was made for MTV. There was one called Freaknik the Musical. I don't know if you're familiar with this, with T-Pain for Cartoon Network, I think it was, where they brought the Freaknik name back. The ghost of Freaknik comes back, and it in my opinion was super tasteless and hella ignorant, but you're talking about the Trap King T-Pain giving the opportunity to make a cartoon, then that's what he comes off with. But
Robin Seg is saying that she was groped when she was at the Philly Freak show.
Yeah, they had to shut down the Greek picnic in Philly for the same reason. Okay, yeah. Gotcha. Let's see. Perceptions are the problems. To my disappointment, the Implicit Bias Project just emailed and stated there isn't much to prevent implicit bias. It's better to eliminate details that would trigger. Where's the rest of this? That would trigger. Okay.
Do you think putting my my tinfoil hat on, my conspiracy theory hat, right? Do you think that this Freaknik documentary, I'm just gonna just kind of be a bit like Charles Woods and look at it a bit deeper as to the reason why it's being put out and promoted. Do you think it's a way of making black men look over-sexualized again? Can't control themselves, that they're just like animals.
I think it was somebody's idea of nostalgia. I mean, these are black people that are making the film. We're talking about Luther King.
Oh, I know that. But what I'm saying is, it's the reason why it's greenlighted and promoted, because I'm pretty sure people make these things with good intention, honest intention. It's nostalgic, but then the people who are going to push it and pump it and greenlight it and want to you know what, we love this. What's their agenda? What's their agenda? Because there's I'm sure there was 100 ideas that are presented to them on a daily basis. But then why do they decide, oh yeah, that's the one we're going to pick up and run with?
Well, I think there's visual evidence, right? There's a lot of footage. The same people that are making this have made documentaries about Tupac and done producing on Unsung and different things like that. So there's a level of black nostalgia, and any cursory search on YouTube of the term Freaknik, you're going to see videos that have tens, if not hundreds of thousands of views. So certainly they're doing it. If they didn't think there was money in it, they wouldn't do it. What my concern is will it be a fair and balanced portrayal of what that attempt was, which was to bring black people together in a
that's the point I'm making. Yeah. So like I say, the people who greenlight it, how are they going to package it? Yeah, when it's the final cut, how are they going to present it? Are they going to present it like, oh, this was a good thing? I was saying, definitely think Charles Woods would think that. Yeah, Charles Woods ain't here today, so I have to try to fill in and trying to think how Charles Woods
doing. All right, he's just, I didn't even call him on this one. I'd hate to find out that Charles was at Freaknik. I didn't call him for this one, but
yeah, but that's what that's the thing where which I've got to look at and think about, because I'm always really dubious whenever I see any kind of black show, black documentary, anything like that. I'm thinking, surely this is usually like 9 times out of 10, yeah, and I'm probably even being polite. It might be 9.5, right, out of 10. I usually come away annoyed, yeah, by the way we're presented. It's like a friend of mine went to watch a play recently, right? It was called Four Black Boys. Yeah, 4 is in FOR, 4 for black boys, and it was about black boys who want to commit suicide. All right, it was a play, right, and each one of the black boys had some horrendous, trauma, right? And you're thinking, and the thing is, as black people, we're so desperate to see ourselves, especially like in a play or something like we'll go and droves buy tickets to watch it. But then you come away there thinking, come away feeling, like traumatized. You're thinking, why they're not making a play called Four Black Boys Who Want to Excel and Be Fantastic at their, subjects that they choose to pursue.
Okay, well, we can go deeper with that. I mean, I see where you're going with that. I think in the past, I would make the argument, well, it's because we don't control our own media, but in the last 10 years of watching social media evolve, I have to think that we can be our own worst enemy from time to time, because we do things strictly for popularity and money.
Are we the only ones doing that though?
No,
we're not the only ones doing that. But what you find is the things which make us look terrible seem to get the most have the most legs.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I find. And you're thinking, how's it gaining those legs? Mr. Woods was definitely not a Freaknik. Well, yeah, maybe not. But you never know. Won't know until we ask him.
Yeah, people know the Fairmount Park. Fairmount Park, the plateau, is where the Greek picnic was in Philly, which was just as nuts back in the 90s.
Oh, there's a perfect purpose on form today. He's saying, unless there's a documentary made about Girls Gone Wild, I call bias.
That's a good point.
Yeah, where is the Girls Gone Wild documentary? My missus told me about that, actually, Girls Gone Wild.
Yeah, there are lots of spring break videos and things like that. Let me try and catch up with these comments so we can go. I see Hamlin Jones is in the building. Welcome. Technology. Yeah, so to finish that point. Yeah, so where's the technology in financing or having Hulu finance a docuseries or documentary about Freaknik?
Well, is it? You can answer the question.
Well, you can jump on it and then I can piggyback.
I was just going to say, well, it looks to me that there's money to be made because you said it's something really popular, and it also helps perpetuate the narrative that black men are, highly sexed, testosterone-driven, wild animals who will literally savage women. It's almost going back to that, what's it called? Birth of a Nation movie, the original Birth of a Nation. It's playing that same narrative again. So when people get locked up put it this way, imagine you're on trial for rape, right? As a black man, you're on trial for rape, and the judge watches that Freaknik documentary like literally the day before, or the jury watched Freaknik a few days before. What chance have you got of getting a fair trial?
None.
They're just watching that documentary or even seeing the trailer for that. You turn immediately thinking, of course he did it. You can tell he did it. Look, you can tell by his eyes. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, perfect your purpose. He's got some good comments today. Thank you. Please continue to contribute to the chat.
You can tell when a guy's wearing a suit like that, the guy's going to talk sense.
I think the documentary may be intended to put our Gen Xers' past lives on full display in the age of social media. I think it causes our millennials to think less of our elder community. Yeah, I agree. It's nuts to think. I mean, I think one of the things as somebody who's of Freaknik age, I'm so grateful that cameras didn't exist, weren't as ubiquitous, weren't everywhere like they are now when I was coming of age, for a variety of reasons. And I think that this Freaknik documentary puts a lot of fear into people because nobody thought those tapes were going to go anywhere, and now they're being resurrected. And somebody asked earlier, like what the specific story is around this particular documentary. I honestly don't know, like, where they're getting the footage, if they're culling it from random videos, or if this is something that one of the documentarians of Freaknik has a whole bunch of footage just from that specific year, and they're repurposing it into a documentary. Like, there is a lawsuit happening. I don't know if you saw this. Let me see if I can pull it up. But some people are trying to preempt the production and distribution of the Freaknik documentary out of this fear that they might be exposed, that they didn't sign releases, so on and so forth.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll see, won't we? But one thing which you say about the cameras and everything else, like with people weren't really that familiar with cameras back then in terms of like being everywhere in every corner like they are now. But there's more cameras now than there ever has been in the history of the world. But yeah, are people behaving themselves more or less?
I didn't catch the word. Are they doing what?
Are the cameras keeping people honest?
No, we're filming ourselves doing this kind of behavior, but we're aware of the consequences of this now. Whereas you might argue that a 20-something back in 1994 might not be as aware of the consequences or the fact that these images last forever, basically. And
when you think a 20-year-old is more aware of that, it's going to last forever now, when they're filming themselves doing some crazy stuff.
I think that people might feel that there was a statute of limitations and that amateur video of them, unless they were trying to do like adult films or something, would not come back to haunt them decades later.
I don't know. I think a young person is a young person.
Okay.
And I think young people are always going to do things which aren't very well thought out. I think that's just, that's one of the curses and benefits of being young.
So, you have younger kids. What are you telling them about these cameras and things like that in terms of responsibility?
What's who telling who? Sorry.
You have younger kids.
Yeah, I've got children.
How do you make them aware of their actions and consequences? We could talk as even I guess one of the things that happened last week, Kim Kardashian's TikTok account got shut down. I guess she was putting her kid on too much in different views and things like that. So the responsibility.
I think it's a conversation which needs to be had. I'm kind of fortunate because my children aren't really that crazy about uploading pictures on social media. In fact, the craze now is to do that when you take your pictures. When you're a young person, it's annoying. I don't even get any pictures of my children anymore because they're always like that. So, and the younger guys wear masks now, don't they? Wear full ski masks. So, but yeah, it's a conversation that you should have in terms of like what you put out there will stay out there these days. It will just stay in the ether. It doesn't go anywhere. Whereas back then, someone had to put the footage in a vault or something. It was going to be lost in the sands of time at some point. Whereas now, it really doesn't go anywhere. It's digital. It's it's not even it's not physical. So it can just float around forever. So that's something you have to be mindful of. But again, it goes down to with the Freaknik and everything else is, if you wouldn't want the world knowing what you're doing, then you shouldn't be doing it. Like if I'm going to inject a needle in my arm and then someone gets a camera out to film it, and I'm like, no. Then that really means that I shouldn't be doing it.
Right. Your own
Without sounding.
consciousness of the time.
Say again, sorry, Mike.
Your own consciousness of the time.
Well, it's a case of I know it's wrong. So I'm thinking if I don't want you film, if I don't want you filming me do, if you're embarrassed if you film me doing this, and it's clear I don't want you to see me doing it.
Right. Well, here's a positive note. Here, the reawareness of Freaknik brought back a lot of memories of music that I've forgotten about. I think that could be a plus for the documentary to resurrect some of that music in the career.
There's lots of positives, but I'm just saying I like, look, this documentary, if it's done right and it was done with the right intentions and they didn't want to frame it in the way that I believe they may frame it, then it'd be great. It would be fantastic. But if they're going to show footage about like the bit that we both saw, where the woman with the white dress got her clothes ripped off and the men were like all grabbing her and stuff, there's nothing positive about that. That's only going to just leave bad taste in men and women's mouths. Because the men will be like, that could be my sister, and the women are going to be like, that could be me. But if it was just like some kind of nostalgia with music and good times, then yeah, it'd be great. I would question that. The same 20-year-old would be afforded a second chance after making a mistake on camera. Here in the US, the only one ethnic group. Yeah, absolutely. Look, I've seen some recently where.
You froze up for a second. So while he's frozen, I'm gonna wait. Just let me just throw in as your picture reframes. We have a Reelblack 1 and a Reelblack 2. If you have not subscribed to either channel, please do so now. You back? You're back.
I don't know. Am I back?
Yeah, you were frozen for a second.
Oh, was I?
Yeah, you're perfect.
Okay, and I was just responding to what Perfect Purpose said about in the US, like you don't get a second chance if you're of a certain demographic, and absolutely, I see that way too often. Way too often. Look, I remember reading an article, right, about a white British kid who went to the USA to go to a Donald Trump rally. I think this is before he became president. The guy was like 20 years old. He took a gun out of a policeman's holster and tried to shoot Trump. So he managed to take the gun out, and as he took the gun out, they pressed him to the ground and arrested him. He went to court, and the judge said to him, "You're not a murderer. You're just a silly little boy. Yeah, we're going to send you back to England. Yeah, and think about what you have done and whatever, and just be more sensible in the future." Right? Could you see that same response if he'd have been anything other than what he was?
Oh, there's definitely a double standard. I mean, we saw something very similar in this past week. We had a big in Nashville, Tennessee, I believe it was. It was a former employee or an employee shot up his coworkers at a bank.
Yeah,
and one of the politicians. I mean, this is a big thing in the U.S. The whole gun control issue. Marjorie Taylor Greene, not to mention her name, I hate to mention her name. She stood up for this guy because he was white and Christian. Whereas if it had been someone of another ethnic group or whatever, she would be condemning him. So that double standard exists nonstop.
Oh, constantly. And the thing is, we can't really get annoyed by it. Like I get annoyed when people get annoyed by it, because you're thinking, what do you expect? Why would you expect anything different? Yeah, it's like it's been like this for so long. Why would you expect them to say anything different?
Right. Yeah.
That's the thing when we act surprised.
Yeah. So, Little Mom GC. I hope I'm saying that right. She's in conversation with Janine, and she brings up a good point in terms of releases and the legality of using old footage like this in a major documentary. At the time, I'm sure most of those people were not signing releases who were partaking in these things. So the argument is that it could be fair use, or that just the fact that there were cameras there and the footage was used at some point in the future constitutes fair use.
Isn't it after? Because if it's like, 25 years old, doesn't things start to change? Isn't it like public domain or something, or for a certain amount of time? It's like, I don't know. Is there some kind of law on that? If it's just like,
it's important to have releases, or else you open yourself up to a lawsuit, which is one of the things that Voyeur 44 was saying. There'll definitely be some people that don't want to be identified. That's why they blur people's faces out and things like that. So it'd be interesting to see how they do that. But
yeah, but it's only if you're doing something incriminating, though, right?
Thank you for that. I'm sorry. There's so many shootings. I hate to say it. Louisville, Kentucky. I hate to voice ignorance on a live. Louisville, Kentucky, which is where my friend is from. My old college roommate. Shout out to Monty.
Louisville. That's where Muhammad Ali's from, right?
Huh?
Louisville.
Muhammad Ali. Yeah.
Birthplace of Muhammad Ali.
Most recent violent mass shooting perpetrated by white male. It was done in public. Nothing can be done. That's the legal argument, I suppose. But we'll see how they do the documentary. Depends. So if it's in public, it's okay in some.
Well, look, with the Kanye West documentary, that was just like old footage, and there was bits where he's just out and about and in crowds and stuff like that, and you can't just have every single person in the documentary, like, because there's still be some bits where there's like, when the camera pans around, it shows the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
It could be like thousands of people in the crowd, so it's like, how would you even get around that? So it can't be like, there must be some way. It can't be.
Right.
You have to get everybody's agreement,
Right. So it's like two levels of consent: consent to be photographed, and then consent of the extras, so to speak.
Yeah, I don't think you need anybody's consent. I think if it's just a public video or something like that.
The way we get around it, we have a documentary. We have to clear it properly if we ever were to release it, called Last Night at the Five Spot, which is, at the time we had performers. We had signs up saying you're being photographed, but for the artists to sign releases to have their work seen is a different thing. Now, the flip side of that coin would be something like 9/11, where it's typically being filmed as news. And I think that could be the argument that any videographers or filmmakers at the time could make, is that, oh, this is news. We don't necessarily need to have a release. The fact that the presence of our cameras is consent enough.
Well, they had people film jumping out of the buildings, didn't they, during 9/11?
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting. You won't see that footage any longer. They censor that stuff. Well, Lorenzo, you can't expect privacy in public. Well, so it's to be learned. Hopefully we don't see Kamala or anybody at a high level.
That would be interesting, wouldn't it?
At Freaknik. Well,
that'd be interesting.
Went to HBCU, right? Fair use, journalism. What's as we wind it down? I know it's late where you are. I'll open up the floor one more time. I get a big shout out to our mod gang. I see Voyeur 44 in the room. I'm not sure who else is modding tonight.
Question to the people in the audience: would you let your children go to an event like Freaknik? Would anybody let their daughters go to an event like Freaknik, or their sons, for that matter, in 2023? Speaking to the parents in the chat. So one person saying, I wouldn't be happy. I wouldn't even let myself go.
Negative.
Yeah. My parents tried to bring my brother.
Negative. I'm trying to give dead air. Let me see. My parents tried to bring my brother and I to one back in '93.
Actually, and that leads on to something else. Actually, I want to ask the ladies in the chat. Do you think women are safer on the street now at like events like that, on nights out, or just that kind of event now than they were then? Are women safer now than they were then, or safer than they are now?
Well, there's more drugs now. That's the thing. I mean, it's not like there weren't drugs then, but the drugs now are much more prevalent and more dangerous. If you're talking about
the drugs are more dangerous now.
Well, I'm thinking specifically of fentanyl and certain party drugs that didn't really exist in 1993. You know,
more like
Molly. Well, Molly was right on the verge. You know, but ecstasy was right on the verge. But
ecstasy was very well in England. Ecstasy was very, very popular from like 80, 89, 1990. Right. I think 94 was probably the peak of ecstasy.
Right. I mean, so in '93, the drug of choice for especially among Black youth was like Old English 800 and St. Ides and things like that. Alcohol.
Yeah.
Poisoning, but you know, it's you know.
So Sonovia, I'm pretty sorry, Son. I might be butchering your name, Mrs. Ridley. Says she says we are safer. She's saying we're safer now.
You think you're safer now than back in the '90s?
That's what she's saying. Okay. Can't disagree or agree. There's a lot more weirdos back then, that's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and marijuana was big. Well, marijuana is definitely the chronic and all that stuff was popularizing that plant-based medicine. I'll put it that way. Now that it's legal in most states. Let's see. Never safe. You and I can walk down the same street. The street's a metaphoric. To you, it's safe. To us, it's deadly, like a different dimension. That's well put.
You know what? Leading on what Diversity Love's saying, yeah. I remember someone saying to me one time about someone said to them, "Oh, don't go down that street. It's very dangerous." And they explain that they've got nothing to worry about because they're not thinking about any danger. All right? You know, so he's saying if I'm projecting that energy, then I'll get into some kind of like danger. Whereas if I just go there about my business and I'm not even thinking about that, I'm just thinking I'm safe, then I'll be safe. I'm not saying for anyone watching at home to practice this, yeah, because if you're walking down the street with some, you know, shade looking guys, maybe go a different way. But sometimes we can project a certain thing out into the ether, which actually creates the danger. Try not to get too deep. Yes, that perfect purpose. I don't promote drug use, but Black folks weren't using more drugs in the 90s than other groups. The media intentionally amplified that assumption, especially following the go. Yeah, you're right. Again, you're absolutely right. They always make out like Black people use more drugs than anybody else.
Right.
They always do that. Honestly, when I first came to America, or when I started coming regularly, I saw a white crackhead. I was shocked because in the movies they only ever depict Black crackheads. I've never seen a white crackhead in a movie. So when I saw a white crackhead in Miami, I was like, "What's that guy doing, looking like that?" And my wife said to me, "Oh, it's a crackhead," and I was like, "What? It's not he's a crackhead."
Yeah, it's the same when they penalize powder cocaine less than rock cocaine. You know, it's the same bias and racism that fuels it. But yeah. Oh, I'll throw this up real fast. The Wikipedia page for Freaknik.
Oh, okay.
Talks about the history of Freaknik. I don't know how many people can read that. I certainly
Read it
can't.
for us, Mike.
Yeah, maybe this was a waste of energy to try to put this up. Yeah, it's too small. But there's
You
a
can
whole
enlarge
page.
it by going to the the
Oh,
percentage.
let me see. I'll try.
Go to the percentage. You can make it bigger.
Okay, it's still small if you're watching your phone. Is it all the way wide? Oh, yeah, okay. All right.
Yeah, it's readable now.
All right. Freaknik is an annual spring break festival in Atlanta, Georgia. Is primarily intended by students from historically Black colleges and universities. It began in 1983 as a small picnic in a public park near the Atlanta University Center, sponsored by the DC Metro Club for students who could not afford to return home for spring break. It continued as an annual event held during the third weekend in April. Now, I gotta wonder why they picked the name. I don't know how that window opened. That's the Freaknik the musical page. The event increased in size and popularity in the 1990s, incorporating dance contests, concerts, parties, a basketball tournament, rap sessions, a film festival, and a job fair.
I know how they picked the name actually, because I saw that in when I was doing a little bit of research for this, and they said that they picked the name because it started as a picnic, and the popular song at the time when it first started was by Rick James, Super Freak.
Okay.
So they just chose that because it was catchy,
right.
apparently, and they just called it Freaknik.
Well, DC Metro Club's 82
Jibber Jabber just made a good point.
Return of the Freak. Oh, are we back to the comments? All right, so let's
Jibber Jabber just made a really good comment actually about the debauchery one.
Oh, Vashon is here. I don't know if Vashon wants to jump on, but I'll put the before we wind it up. I mean, we're in stretch time now. I think we covered the topic pretty well. I don't know if Vashon wants to come on, so I'll just put the link in the chat. It's not always okay. So we've gone down a wormhole of sexual predator and sexual assault stuff in the chat.
Well, Jibber Jabber said, I think it's at 12:56. Yeah, I think it's a distraction to link Black America with debauchery. Yeah, they continually try to do that. That's for sure.
And I think, I mean, just seeing the pedigree of the people who are making this stuff, they're capitalizing. I feel like they're capitalizing off of nostalgia in a sense, and hip hop culture specifically. Mass Appeal is one of the producers, and they do a lot of hip hop documentaries. And of course, with Luther Campbell's name attached, it certainly projects into your imagination idea of what this kind of film is going to be about. So hopefully it'll be, again, you want it to be fair and balanced, but.
And when's the release date for it, Mike? Again, just remind me again.
They're aiming for next spring because next spring will be the 30th anniversary of the 19.
Next spring. So they're talking about it now for next spring.
As an announced thing for Hulu, yeah.
Wow, that's like some additional. That's like some really, that's like hype on steroids. A year away, so it's not okay. Hopefully, it won't die down by next time then.
Yeah, freaking picnic. Okay, be careful, Wiki. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess we should warn people, like if we're talking about anything on Wikipedia, it's a user-generated encyclopedia, so there could be some bias and some false.
There's always bias, that's for sure.
So I always feel like when I say, hey, here's a Wikipedia article, that's almost implied, but I guess if we don't make it clear that it's user-generated content, that could be inaccurate. That we're not doing ourselves.
It's sometimes, but it's still like it's facts are facts and opinions are opinions. But what a lot of things do is they mix opinion and fact together. So you've got to be able to distinguish between something that's fact and something that's opinion. But it takes a while to be able to do that. It could be technology, but I would say watch the documentary on Woodstock '99, Trainwreck.
Right.
What's that one?
Woodstock '99. It's how, they were underprepared for the rebirth of Woodstock, and there was a lot of craziness going on. I didn't see it yet, Voyeur, but I know what you're talking about. I'm familiar with the film. Sturgis, yeah. Well, Sturgis, that's the bike week, yeah. That's something. I mean, there are always tapes floating around from different bike weeks and Sturgis things and things like that. But yeah, they're not going to air that kind of laundry on Hulu, I don't think. It's sort of the for white bike people. Or not all. No, well, there's black bikers too now too. But for the motorcycle culture, Sturgis is sort of like an insane week of bike riding and debauchery that happens in the United States. So okay, so this was fun, man. I'm glad we caught up. Any final thoughts?
Well, like I say, I'll watch it anyway, just to see when it eventually comes out. So yeah, I'll give it a watch, but I'm not expecting Luther Campbell. We know how. Who's Luther Campbell?
Luke from 2 Live Crew.
Oh, right, okay.
He's one of the producers. But
yeah, final thoughts. Yeah, it's good discussion, good chat. I think we went a little bit deeper than I don't know, maybe some of the audience was expecting, but I think we have to unravel it a bit more and look at the potential deeper meaning behind it, which I think we've looked at.
This is a to be continued, but I mean, me specifically, I have nothing to confess. And if there's anybody that looks like me that's having a good time at Freaknik, it's not me. But I just.
You were definitely there that year. You was definitely there that year, right?
I was in LA actually in 95, 96. Just like I was with wait, hang on. I was with LA Rams. That's my alibi. I got an alibi. I was in LA in 95, 96. So.
What, that spring?
What, now you're interrogating? Yes, officer. The spring break, I stayed. I kept my.
So let me get this straight. You bought the bottle of beer at 11:30, right? Yeah, you bought the bottle of beer at 11:30.
11:30. It sounds
11:15.
Right.
So you bought the bottle of beer at 11:15. Anyone know that reference, guys? I'm sure you do.
You done fucked up.
I should have done the actual voice of the Bill Duke's voice. So you bought the bottle of beer at 11:15. So let me get this straight. You bought the bottle of beer at 11:30. You done fucked up.
It makes sense to watch it. Well, we have to have a part 2 on this one for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So we'll wind up then, shall we? This was only like an hour session, but I think we've had some good fun. Hopefully the guys watching this and in the chat have enjoyed themselves too, as much as me. I've enjoyed myself. Definitely. That's right. Menace to Society by the great Bill Dukes.
Yeah, and we have a lot of stuff coming up in addition to the live music in the mornings. We just filmed 2 interviews this week. One with Shantae Wayans, where we put a teaser up on the channel earlier today, and the rest of that will be on Reelblack 2. That's why I say please subscribe to Reelblack 2 so you get that notification. And you can watch the full hour conversation. It was a great discussion with Shantae Wayans. And also we talked to Lisa Cortez, and that interview will go up next week as well. She's the producer, director of the new documentary, Little Richard, I Am Everything, which comes out in theaters next Friday, April 21st. So
a documentary on Little Richard.
Yeah, it's really good too.
Is it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, a very complex human being. Little
Okay,
Richard.
I'm thinking again, me putting my technology hat on again. I'm thinking, what's the agenda there? Because Little Richard, you know, they could spin it in a way, couldn't they? To
Well, this is Black folks telling the story, and I think
okay.
what's important to know about Little Richard is he was an originator on so much of our culture, but he never
Mm.
really got his just due.
Oh, absolutely,
He was
that's
ripped off. He was ripped off by record labels, and
mm,
then he was culturally erased by people like Elvis Presley and so on and so forth. So this documentary seeks to rectify those wrongs by giving him his place in history with the
mm,
documentary. I think they do a really good job. Lisa's a friend. I'll put that as purpose. Perfect
mm.
your purpose says you have to cite um your notations, but you know, you know, Lisa's a friend, and I think she did a great job. She's an Emmy winner and an Oscar winner for the movie Precious. Uh, she she helped Monique win. So, oh, did you see the Monique special yet? By the way, are you caught up with anything?
Well, on what channel?
It's a Netflix special. Monique finally got a Netflix special, and apparently, you know,
Uh,
she came out as bi, and it
who's
does
by?
Monique. You know, so breaking news. You know, it's not,
She's
you know,
by.
bisexual. Yeah.
Yeah. That's probably why she got the deal.
Hey, allegedly, we'll just throw that in there that way. But I don't know what she had sued Netflix. You know that, right? Because she wasn't getting the price that she wanted. So eventually she rectified that, and she
Yeah.
ended up with a Netflix special. So I recommend people check that out. I'm going to be doing a video also of things that are on the Kino Lorber sale. I got to take care of that in the next. I'll probably shoot it tomorrow morning. Oh, Afro School's here. Hey, hopefully I get to see you tomorrow. Um, but yeah, so that's about anything in the chat that we want to finish up on. And I know it's late where you are, so
No, what's this? Jason Clue, would you please join us one morning for Mike D's request show?
we
Boy of
got the time
44.
difference.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, it's I'm normally doing my day job around that time. I've occasionally jumped on before, haven't I? But
You
it's
called me right after, you know, so I know
yeah.
when you're around. I can feel your presence. But yeah, so there's lots more new stuff coming your way in terms of podcast content. You know, like I said, we have 2 more interviews that are going to go up in the next week, and I'm going to do a review of Kino Lorber titles that are out on home video now. They're on sale, so that's about it. Okay, well, should we leave it with the our friend who's in case you missed it? Let me pull the. Well, all right, I'll for Afro Soul, because I know she hates this, and I know everybody else knows what's about to happen. This is as close to Freaknik as you're gonna see me involved in. All right, so I'm outing myself publicly. This is my shameful moment.
Turns up like that. Now just roll back like this. Now you gotta roll into it. Put a little roll into it. Put a little finesse in your roll. There you go. Put a little finesse. Put a little finesse in your roll. Exactly. Now bring the hands up like this. This is the way you do it. Now watch. We're gonna do a tag team move. Watch this. So say this. Say this is the special lady right here. All right. All right. Put our hands up like this. Get to rolling on them. We call this the Eiffel Tower. The Eiffel Tower. Boom. Turn around. Get some of the Eiffel Tower.
Get some Eiffel Tower. All right.
Okay, so that's my shame. So you can't embarrass me any further.
Didn't know you had those moves, Mike.
I've been working on it too.
And you're gonna look. I can see the ladies. You sit in the pulses racing in the group chat there. The ladies are losing their minds now. They're like, "Wow, I didn't know you could move your hips like that, Mike." Women are thinking.
Oh gosh, so why am I alone?
Yeah, that's kind of clever actually, playing that bit at the end. You've left that image with in the ladies' minds. When they go to sleep tonight, all they'll be thinking about is you.
I know.
Very smart move. Very smart
I'm the
move.
man. I'm the man. All right. Okay. Well, thank you, Jason, for hanging out with us. Thank you, chat. I see Synovia's in the room. I see Afro Soul's in the room. I see Superstars in the room. And I'm sorry, Superstar. You gotta put your if I'm not responding to your requests in the morning, just keep requesting. We had a really busy chat this morning, and I missed Superstar's request, so I apologize for that. And Voyeur 44, of course, who was the first in the room. So, all right, we're out. Thanks again.
Thanks, guys.
All right, and adios.
See you soon.